Deep within the mystical heart of a jungle, where trees reached to the heavens and vines tangled like ancient mysteries, there stood a castle that was unlike any other. This castle did not stand still, but instead roamed through the dense foliage, its towers peaking above the trees, its walls blending with the jungle's wild spirit. It was Howl's moving castle, a magical fortress crafted by the enigmatic wizard Howl. Howl's castle, a hodgepodge of enchanted metal and stone, never stayed in one place for long. It shuffled across the jungle floor on mechanical legs, avoiding the dangers of the dense wilderness. The jungle was no ordinary place. It was filled with creatures that hid in the shadows, ancient spirits that protected its secrets, and legends whispered in the wind. Sophie, a young woman who had recently joined Howl's entourage, sat at the window of the castle, watching the jungle pass by. She had never seen a place so alive, so full of magic. The leaves rustled with whispers, and the wind carried distant animal cries that made her heart race with both fear and excitement. "Where are we going?" Sophie asked as Howl stood at the helm, guiding the castle through the maze of trees. His expression was calm, his eyes as mysterious as the forest itself. "The jungle holds something I need," Howl replied, his voice barely louder than a murmur. "A rare and ancient power hidden in its depths." Sophie frowned. "More power? Isn't the magic you have enough?" Howl smiled, a smile that did not reach his eyes. "The magic of this world is endless, Sophie. There are always new things to discover, new ways to protect those you care about." Sophie's heart softened at his words. She knew Howl was always thinking of protecting her, Markle, and Calcifer, the fire demon who powered the castle. But this jungle was treacherous, and Sophie couldn't shake the feeling that something dangerous lay ahead. As the castle moved deeper into the jungle, it became clear that the place was far more than just wild. Strange occurrences began to happen. The vines seemed to move of their own accord, wrapping around the castle's legs, trying to hold it in place. The trees whispered, their branches brushing against the walls like fingers tracing the outline of a secret. Markle, Howl's young apprentice, peered out from the window. "This place gives me the creeps," he said, rubbing his arms. "It's like the jungle is alive." "It is," Calcifer replied from the hearth. His flames flickered nervously, casting shadows that danced across the room. "The jungle is ancient magic. It doesn't like intruders." Sophie stood beside Markle, watching the thick foliage part as the castle moved forward. "What do you think it's guarding?" "Something powerful," Calcifer answered. "Something it doesn't want Howl to have." As night fell, the castle slowed its movement. The jungle around them seemed to breathe, its heartbeat echoing in the silence. Sophie couldn't sleep. The sounds of the jungle were too eerie, too alive. She wandered the halls of the castle, her thoughts racing. Suddenly, the castle shuddered. Sophie rushed to the control room, where Howl stood staring out into the night. His eyes were narrowed, focused on something beyond the trees. "They're here," he whispered. "Who?" Sophie asked, her voice trembling. Howl didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed into the darkness. Sophie squinted, trying to see what he saw. Then she gasped. Figures were moving in the shadows, creatures with glowing eyes and bodies that seemed to blend into the jungle. They were tall and lithe, their movements graceful and predatory. "They are the jungle's guardians," Howl said, his voice calm but tense. "They protect the magic here, and they don't take kindly to intruders." The guardians surrounded the castle, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. They moved silently, their presence unnerving. Sophie's heart raced as she watched them approach, their tall figures weaving through the trees with ease. "They're not attacking," she whispered to Howl. "They won't, yet," Howl replied, "but they will if we push too far." Sophie turned to him, worry filling her chest. "Then why are we here? Can't we just leave?" Howl shook his head. "We've come too far. We need what the jungle hides, and the guardians are the key to finding it." Without warning, one of the guardians stepped forward, its glowing eyes locking on to Howl. It spoke, its voice a low guttural hum that seemed to resonate with the very earth beneath their feet. "You do not belong here," the guardian said. "Turn back, wizard, or face the wrath of the jungle." Howl stepped forward, his demeanor calm and commanding. "I seek the heart of the jungle. I know it holds great power." The guardian's eyes narrowed. "The heart is not for mortals to take. It is the lifeblood of this land, the source of its magic." Sophie's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't realized the stakes were so high. Howl, maybe we shouldn't. But Howl raised a hand, silencing her. I don't seek to harm the jungle, he said, his voice strong. I only wish to protect those I love. The world outside is changing, becoming more dangerous. I need the heart's power to safeguard my family. The guardian was silent for a long moment, its glowing eyes studying Howl. Then it spoke again. The heart of the jungle does not grant power easily. If you truly wish to claim it, you must pass the trials set by the jungle itself. Howl nodded, his expression unreadable. I accept. The next morning, the jungle itself seemed to shift. The guardians led Howl, Sophie, Markle, and Calcifer to the edge of a clearing, where an ancient stone archway stood covered in moss and vines. Beyond it lay a path that twisted and turned into the depths of the jungle. The trials will test your heart, your mind, and your spirit, the lead guardian said. Only those who are worthy may reach the heart of the jungle. Howl stepped forward first, but Sophie caught his arm. You don't have to do this alone, she said, determination in her eyes. We're in this together. Howl smiled softly, grateful for her presence. Thank you, Sophie. Together they passed through the archway, and the first trial began. The jungle grew darker as they ventured deeper, the trees closing in around them. Suddenly the ground beneath them shifted, and they found themselves standing in the middle of a vast labyrinthine maze made of towering roots and vines. The trial of the mind, Howl murmured. Sophie looked around, her heart pounding. How do we get through this? Calcifer floated above them, his flame flickering. We'll have to think our way out. This jungle isn't just about brute strength, it's about wit and wisdom. Markle, ever the curious apprentice, began to examine the walls of the maze. Look, the vines change when you touch them. Sure enough, as Markle ran his hand along the vines, they shifted, forming new paths and closing old ones. Sophie realized the maze was alive, responding to their movements. We have to find the right combination, she said. The jungle is testing our understanding of its magic. Hours passed as they navigated the maze, solving its puzzles and overcoming its challenges. Each step forward brought them closer to the heart of the jungle, and with every challenge, they learned more about themselves. At last, they reached the center of the jungle, where a great tree stood, its roots glowing with a soft green light. At its base lay the heart of the jungle, a pulsating orb of pure magic, its energy radiating through the air. Howl approached it slowly, his hand reaching out toward the heart, but before he could touch it, the guardians appeared once more. You have passed the trials, the lead guardian said, but one final test remains. Howl turned to face the guardians, his expression resolute. What is the final test? The guardian's eyes glowed brighter. You must choose. The heart of the jungle will grant you power, but at a cost. For every life you save, another life will be taken. Sophie's heart froze. Howl, you can't. But Howl shook his head, understanding dawning in his eyes. I see. The power comes with a price. It always does. For a moment he stood there, staring at the heart. Then, slowly, he stepped back. I won't take it, Howl said, his voice quiet but firm. I can't trade one life for another. I'll find another way to protect those I love. The guardians bowed their heads in approval. You have chosen wisely, wizard. The jungle's magic will remain safe. As they made their way back to the castle, Sophie felt a sense of relief wash over her. They had come so close to losing themselves to the jungle's power, but in the end they had found something far more important: understanding, wisdom, and the strength to make the right choice.